Okay, if you're on my Twitter, sorry about yesterday, guys. Honestly, I did not know it was going to do that. That when I decided to put everything into a nice, neat playlist so everybody can look for their wrestling content, or they look for their Disney content, or they just want to see what happened at Reunion last year, they could do that. I didn't realize that every single time I did something on the YouTube channel, it would post to Twitter. So, I'm very sorry about that. Mainly Joel, I'm very sorry about that. So, I want to ask everyone another question real quick. What do you think about the new channel look? I think it looks awesome. I think it looks even better than it ever did. And I'll tell you right now that I love this new design on YouTube, which actually, unlike MySpace and Facebook, it's actually progressing instead of regressing. But I do want to say a couple thanks real quick once again. I'm talking to Corey Martin right now, and by talking I mean I've sent him a couple tweets. And hopefully he can help me create a banner for this YouTube channel. Basically say, welcome to Suro and Disney's awesome channel, with of course that iconic picture of me drinking the frozen lemonade that everyone knows was from Halloween Horror Nights last year, me sporting my Penn and Teller shirt at Universal. But I want to give a real big shout out real quick to the featured channels on my list. I want to talk about the websites that I frequent. Obviously you can see who I go to on a regular basis. But the main people I want to shout out right now, I want to shout out the Tim Tracker, which is literally the Tim Tracker. That's his channel. Tim and Jen are really awesome people. They have daily vlogs, and I'm sure if you haven't heard of them before, go check them out. They're awesome. Go to youtube.com/user/the Tim Tracker. Or if you're a theme park aficionado like myself, you can check out Tim's awesome YouTube channel filled with a lot of theme park ride-throughs at My Theme Park POV. So you can check that out. That's the YouTube channel. Also, Tim has a new channel that he's working on with The Chiz Show that is going to be called Noob vs. Pro, and that's N00B VSPRO. So you can check that out. There's a trailer now for the site, and hopefully you can check that out in the near future. So look at that. Now, that was a little start of that, actually. I see there's a new video post. I'm going to check that out. Plus, you can also check out Dr. Jimmy, the infamous Dr. Jimmy from Halloween Horror Nights lore. You can check him out at Dockimo, DOCKIMO. And also, you can check out the very beautiful and talented Juliette Danielle. Of course, you would know her as Lisa from The Room at Juliette, JULIETTE, Danielle 80 at YouTube. So those are channels that I check out, and also channels that I like and I watch on a regular basis. Also, you can look for the channels of Psycho Massacre Films and Dr. Emmett Brown 1 and a lot of other great channels on YouTube. So those are channels I check out. Go channels, go check them out. Obviously they don't need my put over, but it's there anyway. So I like the new design. I think it looks awesome. And if you go to my site, you can see everything. My subscribers, my view history, my Welcome to My World video, which introduces you to the whole channel. I've got that taken care of now. So you can see my subscriptions, you can see everything. So that's going to be awesome, and I'm excited about that. So, on that note, it's Monday. Well, it was Monday last night. It's Tuesday morning, so you know what that means. It's time to recap Monday Night Raw. And you know, this is 2 weeks, 13 days, mind you, before the MetLife Stadium will host WrestleMania 29. And, of course, I'm going to be going over to Will's house for some awesome party time. We're going to be watching WrestleMania with a bunch of people I know and don't know. And also, before we start the show, there's going to be a roundtable, so we're going to film a roundtable for this channel. And then, of course, I'm going to talk Celebrity Apprentice in one video on Monday on the 8th, and then I'm going to talk WrestleMania in 1 or 2 videos, depending on how long I want to talk about it. Obviously, I'm going to have a lot of thoughts about WrestleMania, and if I possibly can, I'm going to try to get Will involved in that so we can talk about WrestleMania together on Monday. So look forward to that. That's obviously not this week, but next week. So that's a programming note at this point. So, last night, Monday Night Raw in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And let's talk Raw. Now, we are at the Wells Fargo Center in Philly right now. So we kick things off right off the top with CM Punk and Paul Heyman. They come out to the ring. Punk takes the mic and says they say Undertaker's WrestleMania streak will never be beaten. He's unstoppable on the grandest stage of them all, and that the urn somehow feeds his power. Punk then asks who they are, and if they know what they are talking about. So yeah, this is kind of a really open-handed slap to the IWC, at least that's how I can see it, honestly. They're talking about they and basically saying that they would be the internet wrestling community at large, so that's interesting. It's interesting the way that Punk put that. Everyone has their opinions. Obviously I do, because I'm shooting one right now. But his is the only one that matters because it becomes fact. And he calls himself relevant. He says last year Undertaker went 20-0, and it should have ended right there. Him, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels should have just rode off into the sunset together. But no. Taker ruined everything by walking back on the Punk show, pointing at his sign, and now because of this action, the storybook will be rewritten as a man who happens to be the best in the world is going to take him down. Punk says the fans can boo him all they want, but Undertaker is to blame because it's all his fault. And he didn't take the urn to disrespect Paul Bearer. He took it because it's something that belongs to the Undertaker, and it doesn't mean anything to him. And of course, he shows that by tossing it down on the canvas. Punk says Taker earned his streak. All Punk's gonna do is break it. Undertaker is at a psychological disadvantage for the first time, because Punk has something the Undertaker wants, and Undertaker should... Wow. Punk is at a... Wow. Basically, Undertaker's at a psychological disadvantage for the first time because Punk has something Undertaker wants, and Undertaker should have stayed gone, but he came back. Punk says against any other man, Undertaker would easily go 21-0. 30-0, 40-0, even 50-0. Even though I don't... Sorry, I know you're a fan, Will, and I get that, but I don't really want to see a 70, 80-year-old Undertaker trying to chokeslam someone at a WrestleMania. No, just doesn't work for me. He's only got a couple more years left, if that. And he's waiting right now for the lights to go off and Undertaker to say, rest in peace. But Punk's never had any time for rest. Yes, they've pretty much worked him like a dog since he became WWE champion, and he's not had any time to rest, i.e. John Cena. Same thing. Same exact thing, actually. Punk and Cena both have not had considerable time off since they started being workhorses for the company. So, of course, after Mania, Punk's going to get his. But we're going to talk about that later. So, he says there's no room for peace, and at WrestleMania, the Undertaker's streak will, and he gets on his knee and says, rest in peace. The gong sounds. Bell tolls again. Lights go out. Undertaker is in the ring when the lights come back on, not wearing his cloak, and he's ready to kick Punk's ass, and that's exactly what he does. The urn falls from the ring, and Heyman grabs it and darts to the back. That was the fastest I've ever seen Paul Heyman run in his life. So, basically, Taker and Punk brawl for a little bit. Taker gets the upper hand, of course, and Punk powders to the outside, running to live to fight another day. And of course, The Undertaker does his slice across the throat motion and basically says, without saying, that Punk is done at Mania. Which remains to be seen. I'll tell you right now, if Punk's not beating the streak, which obviously it makes no sense for him to because you don't want to do it on an odd WrestleMania, Punk's going to get the closest. I mean, Triple H and The Undertaker last year, basically, both had to, well, Undertaker had to be carried out. He had to be carted out after the match was over. This time, I think it might go a little further than that. I think we might not see The Undertaker for quite a while after this, even though he's going to win. So, I think both Punk and Taker will be off and probably won't be seen on April 8th Raw, when everything changes again. And then Taker, of course, can build up to his WrestleMania 30 match against John Cena. Hopefully a heel John Cena. I know it's redundant and we hear it all the time, but I think sooner rather than later it's going to happen. There's been way too many seeds have been planted for it not to happen now. But I'll get to that later as well. Up next, Fandango debuts, supposedly. So we come back from commercial break. Fandango's music hits. So Fandango hits the ramp as usual. He goes through his awesome streamers and has his concubine with him as usual. And they make their way to the ring. King is basically putting him over intensely on the microphone. Don't know why, because he's a babyface commentator. And obviously Fandango is showing up as pretty much a heel at this point. So, he's ready for competition. And he begins to announce his name. Fandango. Break the wall down hits. And Jericho runs down the ramp, hits the ring, and starts beating on Fandango. They brawl for a bit as Jericho ends up forcing him out of the ring. He basically causes him to retreat up the ramp. So we're supposed to get Chris Jericho and Dolph Ziggler later on tonight. However, Ziggler's music hits, and we're going to have the match right now. First match on Raw, Chris Jericho versus Dolph Ziggler. And of course, Ziggler, of course, is flanked by Biggie Wasted Space Langston and the beautiful and stunning AJ Lee, who's absolutely so crazy, it's not even funny. But, as anyone knows, I dig crazy girls. But the thing about it is the match doesn't go as long as it possibly could. But we come back from commercial break, as usual. Jericho is locked in a rear chin lock. He fights out, counters up with a roll-up. Ziggler catches him with a drop kick with a snap for the near fall. Jericho fights back with chops, and Ziggler stops it with their knee strike right to the midsection. Ziggler locks in a great abdominal stretch. Jericho struggles out, counters into the hip toss. He hits a series of shoulder tackles. Jericho off the top, crowns him with a double axe handle. Irish whip countered by long day. Irish whip countered by Ziggler. Jericho hits a boot to the face, hits the running bulldog. He kicks Langston off when he's going for his Jericho dropkick, because Langston got up on the ring apron for the distraction and Jericho dropkicked him off the ring apron. So he's done. Ziggler hits his stalling DDT, which didn't look as good as it normally did because he kind of didn't lay out with it. He kind of just landed it. So it looked kind of messy, but it still worked for a very, very close near fall. Referee's about to count for 3. Jericho kicks out right in the nick of time. So Ziggler went for the sleeper hold. Jericho grabbed the rope, so that didn't happen. Jericho goes for... Actually, Dolph went for the Famouser, and Jericho kind of slinks him up and goes for the walls. But this time, he puts the knee back, so he's got Ziggler in the Lion Tamer. And Ziggler tap next Sammy Davis Jr. So that's basically what happens. Almost a 9-minute match with Chris Jericho, and who knows what happened while we were on commercial break. I'd say probably over 10 minutes. Match was good for what it was, but I've seen better from both, so there. So Waste of Space gets in the ring, and of course he lays to waste Chris Jericho with his move of doom. And which we're now going to call the big ending, apparently. And Ziggler and Langston and AJ mock Jericho, and they leave. Here comes Fandango and his concubine. So they get back in the ring, and they dance. Literally dance over Jericho's falling body. If that's not a slap in the face, I don't know what is. And then, that only lasts momentarily, because right after that, Fandango starts pounding the daylights out of Jericho. So he's basically slapping him intensely, saying, "Say my name right, say my name right, say my name right." So Jericho goes for a chop, Fandango no-sells it, and Yakuza kicks him down to the canvas. He goes up to the top, hits the guillotine leg drop, and lands on Jericho. Of course, he says, "My name is Fandango." Now, here's the thing. During this time, and in the last couple weeks, I've seen this really, really happen every single time. Every time Fandango comes out, he doesn't necessarily just get booed, he gets "you can't wrestle" chants. This happened in Philly, which makes total sense because Philly is the home of a lot of bloodthirsty fans. No offense to everyone that's from Philly, because not all of them are like that. But you know there are people that exist if you've been to the shows. Now think about it from this perspective. Now, these are people that think Fandango is just a gimmick and he's not ever going to wrestle. Even though he's booked against Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, which is officially announced tonight, but I'll get to that later. Now here's the thing. Johnny Curtis can go. These people probably didn't see Johnny Curtis's short, and I do mean short run on SmackDown, where he was really good in the ring. And he was really good in OVW, and he was really good in FCW. Well, I actually never made it to FCW, but he was really good in the developmental territory, so give him a shot. He's going to surprise a lot of people at WrestleMania, trust me. I think Chris Jericho and Fandango is going to be the sleeper match of WrestleMania, without a question. So we come back from commercial break once again, and we see Matt Striker, sans mustache. Damn you, Cody Rhodes. But the thing is, this time he's interviewing Sheamus. We see a replay from last Friday's SmackDown. If you want to hear what happened on last Friday's SmackDown, there's a video that's in the SmackDown recap playlist. Go check that out. Where Randy Orton, Sheamus, and The Big Show were facing off against the three-man band. And of course they nearly came to blows, but they reunited at the very end when the Shield made their presence known. They basically reunited to take out a common enemy. Stryker asked if the Shield the Shield has caused the hatchet to be buried between the three. Before Sheamus can respond, he gets Pearl Harbored by the Shield. So they beat the daylights out of him, and then Orton comes in. Oh, this was hilarious, by the way. Orton comes in with two chair shots. One, right away, that absolutely does not connect. And, of course, there was no sell on the connection because he didn't connect. And that was funny. It made me laugh. Botchamania, here we come. Matthew, take note. But the thing is, the second time he does connect, he hits Roman Reigns with the chair. And, basically, he causes the Shield to retreat. Well, at least that's what would have happened if the Shield didn't just beat Orton down as well. So they're beating Orton and Sheamus down. And then the Big Show comes in, and the Shield powder to the back. Farther away from the back, like to the depths of the building. Either way, they run away. And they kind of look at each other, kind of like, okay, the match hasn't been officially announced for Mania yet, but keep this in mind, the Big Show will be your saving grace. And once again, Randy Orton trying to play the voice of reason between Sheamus and the Big Show. So, yeah, 100% Randy Orton's turning at WrestleMania. There's no way it's not going to happen. So that's my official prediction. But we'll talk about Raw predictions when we do our roundtable later in the week. So, actually, I might do roundtable prediction. I might do my roundtable in addition to doing WrestleMania predictions. So I think I might do WrestleMania predictions either Wednesday or Thursday next week. I don't know. It just depends. I'll think about it. So, up next, Mark Henry faces two men. Who will those two men be? We're going to find out next. And when we come back, we see the Usos are in the ring. So, yeah. Haven't seen the Usos in quite a while, for obvious reasons. And now that acquittal is taken care of, the Usos can be back in the ring. And actually, if I remember correctly, I was reading a house show report from this weekend, and the Usos actually went over the Rhodes Scholars on one of the house shows. So, they're not getting pushed, but at least they're beating a team that's not really a team that's back to being a team again. Yeah. Not much logic there, WWE. You broke them apart, and now, let's forget about that. They're going to be a team, because you don't have a tag team division, and you realize that, so that's what you got to do. Now, the Usos are in the ring. Mark Henry locks up with one and sends him out to the canvas, real quickly. It's hard to tell Jimmy and Jay apart, so I'm just going to say one or the other. So there you go. So this time, Mark Henry tosses Jay across the ring, and he tags in Jimmy. Now, Mark keeps control, but they double team him with a drop kick. One hits a super kick, the other hits a super kick. Henry goes down on the second super kick, and one of the Usos hits the giant Superfly Splash and goes for the pin. He gets thrown off like a rag doll. So they try to double team again, but Mark Henry, of course, fights them off. He knocks Jay into the apron, from the apron into the barricade on the outside. And Jimmy gets spun like a top with a clothesline. World's Strongest Slam. 1, 2, 3. It's over. 1 minute. 1 minute, they'll never get back again. But to build up Mark Henry as a definitive monster. it did what it was supposed to do. It buried the freaking Usos, but still, it did what it was supposed to do. Talking about buried, we're going to talk about the three-way match later on in the night. There's also another handicap match with Ryback. Yay. So after the match, Mark Henry goes to ringside, picks up Jay, who of course is the one he flew into the barricade, picks him up, locks him up, World's Strongest Slam once again, and then Jimmy's kind of still sprawled out on the canvas, so he picks him up and gives him another World's Strongest Slam, and then after that, he nails a big splash on him and just says, "That's what I do." So nobody splashes me and gets away with it, basically, is what he's trying to say. It was good to build. I mean, it's really hard to do this week of Raw, and this show really, really proves it as we go on. Obviously, Randy Orton missed the chair shot during the last segment, and Mark Henry squashes a tag team when you really need to build your tag team division, unless you want to just abolish it, which, obviously, as a tag team manager, I love tag team wrestling, but when it comes down to it, WWE doesn't really know how to do it anymore, and I'm noticing that. So unless they're going to bring in the Ascension or another tag team, bring in Chris Hero or the Wyatt family, you got to do something like that. Bring them in from FCW. You got to build your tag team division, or just get rid of the titles because there's no point to having them. It's like having a U.S. and an Intercontinental Champion. Even though the U.S. and Intercontinental Champion are both people that I absolutely like in the ring, there doesn't need to be two belts. Not anymore. So, speaking of that, I didn't even mean to do that. We got another segue. So, for the 1,000th time, we get to watch another champion versus champion match with United States Champion Antonio Cesaro, which I think WWE watched my rant somehow, some way. Somehow it got back to corporate about, I know obviously that didn't happen, but I mean, let's just say in my world, something got back to WWE and they took my advice and they put Antonio Cesaro in the ring after the travesty of SmackDown. So maybe if they further go, maybe they'll give him a WrestleMania match, who knows. And even if it's on the pre-show, he's still on WrestleMania, so he still gets the payday, so that's all that matters. He's going to face off against Alberto Del Rio next in title versus title match. Which, of course, neither title is on the line. So we go to the ring, and Cesaro comes out wearing his awesome red, very European shirt, which I really need to purchase sometime when WWE shop. So basically, Ricardo Rodriguez is thought of not to be there, so Justin Roberts comes out to get ready to announce ADR, and unbeknownst to everyone, Ricardo comes out wearing my mom's walking boot and crutches, saying his legs are weak, but his voice is strong. Babyface fire from America. Now, out next comes Alberto Del Rio with, oh my god, that music. You know, I didn't really pick up on it the first time. I really didn't. But when it was mentioned, I think Harmony said something on WNL. When it was mentioned, dear God, I hate Alberto Del Rio's babyface music. It doesn't work at all. I mean, the drum beat is just kind of there. I mean, it kind of like a rehash of Tito Santana's theme somewhat at the beginning, and then it just doesn't work. I mean, I don't like the tempo. I don't like the way it sounds. It's not as bad as some of Wade Barrett's old music, and he'll be the first one to tell you that's true. But it's just, it doesn't work for me at all. And I'm sorry, but yeah, get new music, ADR. Get him some new music. You don't just take the heel theme and change it up a little bit. Put more guitars in it and more drums. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, just get rid of it. I hate it. So, they lock up at the center of the ring with, of course, Ricardo at ringside. Because there's no chance that he's going to get attacked again. Not at all. There's no way. Yeah, right. We're just watching the news. Anyway, they lock up and Cesaro works on the arm. They trade holds for a bit and Del Rio goes back to work on the arm. So, Cesaro makes it to the ropes and calls for the break. He takes Del Rio to the corner and he works him over. And of course he's just beating the tar out of Del Rio right now because he's Claudio Castagnoli and he can. Now, Del Rio fights back, nails his tilt-a-whirl backbreaker for a 2 count, and at this point Zeb Coulter is on stage trying to distract ADR, and that does momentarily, for a knee to the back, and ends up getting tossed to the canvas. He throws him in the corner this time, and he beats on him again. He hits a headbutt to his jaw, which was awesome to say the least. Cesaro goes up top, and Del Rio cut him off. Del Rio climbs up going for a superplex, and this time he actually executes it to perfection. Swagger comes out at this point and nails Ricardo from behind, throwing him into the steel steps and dragging him by his injured ankle over to the barricade. You know, the place where Justin Roberts sits, like the safe zone. And he rams it twice into it. Del Rio comes to the outside and goes after him. And of course, while this is going on, while Jack Swagger is getting beaten literally from pillar to post, the count is being administered and a 10 count is reached. And it doesn't matter because Antonio Cesaro wins this match by count out. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't really look strong, but at least he won. So, I mean, he's in the fans' eyes. That's still a good thing. During this beating, of course, we see a lot of pounding. He basically throws Swagger into the wall. At this point, Swagger's trying to struggle to get his feet, and he hits that standing sidekick, which looks like he killed Swagger with it. And it's funny because he struggles to get back up, and as he's a tall guy anyway, as Swagger's about ready to get up, he grabs the chair to try to, like, balance himself, and he falls again. So, obviously, that kind of knocked him loopy, and pretty much after he realizes he lost, ADR gets a second to look towards the ring, and that lets Swagger powder to the back. So, after this, Cesaro celebrating in the ring his count-out victory over the world champion. Okay, at least he won. I'll say that. So, Alberto's mad because he realizes that he lost the match, and he's pissed off at Swagger, so he's going to take it out on Cesaro. So he gets in the ring, and he locks Cesaro in the cross-arm breaker, and that's it. The crowd's dead. They're not giving anything to either guy, which is damn sad, because when it comes down to it, honestly, Cesaro has had some great matches in the Philadelphia area for Ring of Honor, and I like ADR as a babyface, but a lot of fans don't seem to, so who knows what's going to happen to that. You know, I don't know what's worse. Swagger, sorry, long day. I don't know what's worse. Antonio being continually fed and losing every week after week. I mean, he won this week, but it was count out, so I mean, he still won, but it wasn't as dominant as it could have been. And the crowd just doesn't care about Del Rio and Swagger, and I'm pretty sure this ends at Mania, regardless what happens. This ends at Mania. And I was thinking that Swagger might win at Mania and let Ziggler take it from him. But you know what? At this point, I think ADR wins at Mania, and we just scrap Swagger and Coulter, and we just go to the drawing board starting Monday. So I don't even think there's going to be a cash-in at this point. I think Ziggler's WrestleMania moment at this point is the World Tag Team title match. Because, I mean, it makes total sense if you really think about it. Honestly, you've got Rock and Cena, you got Triple H and Brock Lesnar, you got Punk and Undertaker. Then you have Ziggler cash in Money in the Bank and win the World Heavyweight Championship. So that's way too much as WrestleMania, though. So that's another thing you got to take into consideration. When it comes down to it, honestly, it would make sense for it to be at WrestleMania because it'd be a WrestleMania moment. However, I don't think Hell No's losing the tag belts yet. I don't think that Ziggler and Big E are going to win on their first chance at the championship. So I think Hell No are going to win, so Daniel Bryan can actually be 1-1 at WrestleMania. And I think that Ziggler is not cashing in Money in the Bank. He has till July. Don't forget that, people. And Monday night on Raw, it's a good way to start over again. You have Alberto Del Rio have a match, and then after the match is over, you have Ziggler cash in on him, and boom, we got a new World Heavyweight Champion. So, anyway, basically, if Ziggler cashed in at Mania, he cashed in on Swagger, and that turned him babyface, and apparently, even though some people want that, that's not what the company wants. So, he's going to remain a heel for a while. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, we talk about Punk's words last week about the streak, this week about the streak, and Undertaker's response, so we get to see that again. Still to come, we get a Q&A with John Cena and The Rock with WWE legends. And, of course, Hell No are walking to the ring, so we got them next in action. When we come back from commercial breaks, we see Hell No facing off against the Primetime Players, which obviously brings me back to the awesome segment with Rufus Pancake Patterson a few weeks ago on Raw. It was really enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I love the Primetime Players. I really wish they'd push them more. So, we get to the middle of the match here. Titus is stomping away on Daniel Bryan, hits an uppercut. He hits a front suplex on his partner, onto Bryan, which of course Young sold the ribs on that. That was interesting. Only got a 2 count this time. So Young hits a waistlock on Bryan, goes to roll him up, it didn't work out. Bryan hits a series of knee strikes to fight out of the waistlock, and hits a clothesline off the Irish whip. The hooking clothesline likes to hit. Kane hits the big boot to the face, it's the basement dropkick on D. Young, and Irish whips him in the corner. D. Young, of course, reverses, gets the boot up, Kane with the boot to the face. Slam by Kane is countered by Young, and Kane hits his side slam. So Titus gets sent to the floor. Bryan hits the running knee strike to the top of the forehead from the ring apron to Titus O'Neil to take him out. Meanwhile, Kane hits a choke slam on D. Young for the 3 count. So, about less than 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes, Hell No wins. After this match is over, we see Big E Langston and Dolph Ziggler, of course, on the ramp, just jawing with Kane and Bryan. So, that's pretty much it. That's the segment. Okay, that's fine, whatever. Primetime players get squashed again. But at least they lost to the tag team champion, so it's not a waste of a tag team in this case. So, we're going to see the Shield in action tonight. They're going to have a 6-man tag match coming up later in this evening. And when we come back, we're going to have Triple H talk about his no-holds-barred retirement match at WrestleMania. So we come back. And Triple H's music hits. And he comes to the ring. Cole and Lawler wax poetic about all his credentials, his 13 championships, and DX, Evolution, being the COO of the company. Triple H basically says Brock Lesnar is a destroyer, someone who can end careers in a heartbeat. Triple H has fought every day in his career like his career has depended on it. Paul Heyman thinks he has Hunter trapped against the wall, but Triple H has some advice. Come to WrestleMania like it's your career on the line, because he won't be there to wrestle, he's going to be there to kick Brock Lesnar's ass. So, kind of cookie cutter and not really much heat behind it. But, and one of the worst segments of the night that I hated very much and made absolutely no sense, Wade Barrett comes out wearing the Intercontinental Championship right as Triple H is about to leave. So they meet on the ramp, and Barrett's like, no, get to the side, I have a match now. And of course, Triple H is like, I kick you in the nuts! And that's exactly what he does. So basically, up next, we're going to see Wade Barrett, who is still clutching his stomach, against The Miz in another non-title match. Given this WrestleMania, we can have title matches, of course, so whatever. So we come back from break. Miz makes his entrance, and of course, we go into the recap of The Miz stealing the win in the triple threat match last week on Raw, and obviously the feud overall. So we get to the commercial break as usual. When we come back from break, Miz is going for the 2 count. We see during the break, via the WWE app, obviously, Barrett regained control by ramming Miz straight in the barricade. Barrett with knees to Miz while he's in the ropes. You know, basically, he ties him up in the ropes and he hits the knee strikes. And he kicks Miz hard to the outside. Crowd's not really liking Barrett at this point. They're all over him at this moment. So Barrett brings Miz back into the ring, only gets a 2 count. He works on the lower back, Miz makes his comeback, and sends Barrett face first into the top turnbuckle. Miz hits a forearm and a high knee, and the Miz clothesline in the corner, goes up top for the crown, and he crowns him with a double axe handle. Still only a 2 count. Barrett blocks skull-crushing finale, and hits Winds of Change off the ropes out of nowhere for a deafening near fall. Miz slides out of the wasteland attempt, blocks the kick, goes for the figure 4, Barrett rolls him up into a 2 count. So Miz sweeps the leg and goes for the figure 4 again. He kicks him into the ring post. Miz connects to the ring post shoulder first, and Barrett rolls him up for a 2 count. Barrett hits a kick to the head. Once again, a 2 count. Locks up for the bull hammer. He's about ready to hit it. Miz struggles to his feet. He goes for the bull hammer. He ducks, rolls him up 1, 2. Barrett tosses Miz to the ring apron. He ducks, he slides under the legs, and he goes for the kick, and he gets crotched on top. More psychology. He's worked the groin the entire match. Literally, the first move in the match is an atomic drop by The Miz. Ring psychology. Gotta love it. So, Barrett ends up straddling on the top rope. Miz kicks the knee out from under him, locks in the figure 4, and gets the tap out win. So, ring psychology for The Miz as a babyface works for me. It really does. But he doesn't need to use the figure 4, like, ever. No. Go back to the Skull Crushing finale. You don't use the figure 4. It's getting better, but it's still not good. So, Flair was not in the building tonight, obviously, because apparently we heard he had a blood clot. So he was rushed to the hospital. He's supposed to be involved in the WWE Legends segment at the end of the night, the Q&A. But obviously he did not show up there, so they got Dusty Rhodes to replace him, because Dusty Rhodes is always there at all times, because he's in the back, baby! So, basically, that's what happened there. So, get well soon, Ric Flair. So we see Daniel Bryan and Kane backstage. They're having an argument back and forth, talking about who can't get over AJ. And this is stopped by Caitlyn. She comes in and she hushes them both up, because they both need to move on from AJ. AJ, of course, kind of sneaks in and she listens in. So Caitlyn talks about the past, how the fact they were best friends, and now pretty much they're nothing at this point. But Caitlyn rips into AJ, giving some really decisive words, talking about how she is crazy, and she called her a Mad Hatter, and just like a lot of really random things. Of course, the word crazy is hit, and it's a trigger for AJ, and she jumps for her from behind and beats her around the room. Yes, we have a cat fight in Philly. How appropriate. Joey Styles would be proud. Anyway, Kane and Daniel Bryan pull AJ off of Caitlyn, and they pretty much take her out of the room for quiet time. So we get a Divas title match somewhere down the road. Are we going to get a potential of Ziggler, Big E, and AJ all to have championships the night after Raw? You bet your behind we do. It's a good possibility, but we have a match with them hopefully on the horizon. Maybe coming up in the near future. Maybe coming up tonight. Who knows? So, the Shield is in action next. So, okay, here's strange. We come back from Raw, commercial break, and we see the Great Khali in the ring. No Natty at ringside, so that's good. Hopefully they'll get rid of that, and they'll let Natty work. And then again, I know she worked a house show over the weekend, so all is not lost. There are still chances to put her back in the Divas title picture, which she needs to be in desperately. But you have to get the belt on AJ first, which I think will come sooner rather than later, because I think AJ against Lita is probably the WrestleMania match that they want to run for 30, if I had to guess, because obviously, if you remember seeing the pictures, AJ idolized Amy Dumas growing up, and I think it'd be a perfect way to do it. So, the cocky AJ Lee against the person that she idolizes, which is the return of Lita. So I think that's a great story for WrestleMania 30, and I think they'll do it. But we'll talk about that later. Now, basically we got Khali in the ring with Justin Gabriel, who is actually not doing FCW for a change. He's actually on Raw. And Zack Ryder wearing his Push Me tights. Not mentioned, of course, at all on commentary. Gee, that's a shock. So, the Shield hit the ring, and Seth Rollins starts off. He comes off the ropes, and he gets chopped down by Khali. Ryder tags in. Irish whip reversed by Rollins. Ryder gets the knees up. And in turn, Rollins swats off his drop kick and off the middle rope. So, Ambrose hits a drop kick off the ropes to Ryder as he gets tagged in. Reigns throws Ryder back in the corner and stomps away at him. Ryder hits an elbow to Reigns and hot tag. Yeah, hot tag to Justin Gabriel, which I never thought I'd say that, again on Raw. Series of kicks to Reigns, and Ambrose nails a clothesline from behind to stop the flurry of offense. Ambrose throws Gabriel overhead. Basically, what he does at this point, this looks awesome. Ambrose locks in a bow and arrow, and he's got it locked in, and Rollins comes off the top with the knee strike, and it looked amazing, by the way, and they get the 3 count on that, so less than 2.5 minutes. After the Shield, Khali comes in to try to neutralize the Shield, and that works for about maybe a second. But the Shield, of course, get the advantage. They beat him down and hit the triple powerbomb on Khali. There's nobody they cannot powerbomb. Oh my god. I don't know at this point if they could do Mark Henry. I think, yeah. Mark Henry would be funny to see. I'd like to see the Shield go after Mark Henry because I want to see them try to triple powerbomb him. But they've triple powerbombed everyone. Rock, Cena, Punk, Oh, that's right. They haven't touched CM Punk. Gee, I wonder why. And like I said, I've been saying for a while that I think Cena's behind the Shield. And I know that's just like fantasy booking. But honestly, it's like the aces and eights. Devon took a beating for a greater good. So maybe, just maybe, John Cena took a beating for a greater good. And we'll find out he's the leader later on. Always thinking. Always about something I shouldn't be thinking about, but always thinking. Now, basically, after the triple powerbomb, they do their pose. Sheamus' music hits, and he comes out on the stage. Randy Orton's music hits, he comes out on the stage to stand behind Sheamus and beside him. So they're head-to-head, and of course the Shield had the advantage. And then the Big Show comes to the crowd, and they surround the ring. Show Orton and Sheamus are about to hit the ring, and a brawl breaks out. Of course, the babyfaces clean house, and the Shield, of course, run through the crowd, as usual. So they look at the WrestleMania sign, the show's music plays, so it's official, and hopefully it will be made official on SmackDown, just like I was saying last video. We are going to see the Big Show, Sheamus, and Randy Orton against the Shield at WrestleMania, with, of course, Randy Orton turning at the end. So, after that, we see Chris Jericho emerging from Vicky Guerrero's office. I wonder what's going to happen. And Josh Matthews immediately wonders the same thing because he corners him and asks him, why were you in the office and what were you talking about? Jericho says when you've done what he has in the WWE, you become a target. Jericho says that Fandango kicked his ass twice. So he wants a little bit of redemption. And on the grandest stage of them all, he's going to get his shot. So it's going to be Fandango and Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. No, folks, it wasn't just an internet rumor. It is truth. And it was announced tonight. It's going to happen at WrestleMania. And like I said, I'm calling it right now. It is the sleeper match at WrestleMania without any question. So we get the return of Mustachio and the Beard to the ring, of course. They come out, and you can buy, as has been told by Michael Cole, you can buy Damian Sandow's robe on WWE Shop. Of course, you can't buy mustache wax for Cody Rhodes, but then again, why would you want to? Why'd you want to touch that thing? He looks like he should be on To Catch a Predator at this point. George Harvey says hello. Now, basically, on top of this, they come out to the ring, and they basically introduce the Bella Twins, which look as beautiful as always. And I'm sure Daniel Bryan and John Cena like having them back on the road. Now, after this, we get back from commercial break, and we see Brodus Clay and Sweet Tea in the ring with the Funkadactyls. Yes, the Funkadactyls. Keep that in mind for later in this match. So we get back from break, and we see that we're going to get another useless tag match between the Rhodes Scholars and Tensai and Brodus Clay, which is not going to amount to anything. Except maybe a potential one-off match. I can't say one-off. It's happened a couple times now. Maybe a potential match at Mania. So, probably the pre-show, if I had to guess. Because there's no reason for them to be on the main show and the United States Champion not to be. So, here we go. So, basically, we get back from the break, and they're all dancing in the ring. Brodus is going to start out with Sandow. Sandow with strikes, and Clay runs over him, of course. He hits a clothesline in the corner, and tagging to Sweet Tea. They double-team Sandow with a big slam. Tensai misses in the corner, but hits a shoulder instead. So Cody tags in, goes at it with Tensai for a second. Sandow comes back in for some more double-teaming and stomps away on Sweet Tea. The Cubierto Acquiette, the Elbow of Disdain, only gets a 2 count. Cody comes back in this time, keeping Tensai in control. Cody goes off the top, but he gets dropped with the right hand in midair. Clay comes in for the hot tag and works on Cody. He knocks Sandow off the apron. Clay with the Sheplex and the splash in the corner. Bellas pull Cody to safety, and Cameron and Naomi attack with pom-poms. And basically, they all brawl the ringside area. Sandow basically neck drops Clay across the top rope. Cody hits a beautiful disaster, and 1, 2, 3. Okay. Formulaic tag match lasts about 2.5 minutes. Here's the thing. That wasn't the part of the match that was funny. Okay, Michael Cole commentary. I don't know how this got by, but it went so fast that almost no one called it. I've seen it on Twitter. I mentioned it personally on the SNS Facebook group, and hopefully it'll be talked about on WNL on Bronx's Monday Night Raw recap that he does on tonight. But Michael Cole called Brodus Clay the Funkasaurus Brodus Clay. Well, he kind of forgot the N, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Yeah, he called Brodus Clay yeah, that's right. Funkasaurus without the N, so... Yeah. On live television, there was no comment made from anyone. Jerry Lawler didn't even say anything. There wasn't a pause, and I think he said it so fast, almost no one caught it. But I did, and I went back and watched it again to make sure I wasn't hearing things. So yeah, Michael Cole called him the Funkasaurus without the N. Yay, PG programming, gotta love it. So we get back, and Ryback is walking. Yay. He's gonna face off against 3 men next. Gee, I wonder who the 3 men are gonna be. Maybe the people that main evented SmackDown last week? Gee, I'm shocked if that's gonna be the case. So, of course, it's a 3-man band. And, pretty much, Ryback started off with Heath Slater, and the crowd were chanting Feed Me More, at least the children were, because Ryback's not very over anymore. They really need to do something to build him back up if they really want to use him. Obviously, I don't care, because I don't like the guy, but if you want to build him up, you're going to have to do something, and he's not doing anything right now. He's floundering away, and God, I want him to lose to Mark Henry at WrestleMania, but it probably won't happen. So Ryback goes after Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal while Slater attacks him. Ryback hits a Thez press and slams Slater's head repeatedly into the canvas. Ryback had a splash on Slater, you know, the Ultimate Warrior splash. So Slater tags in Drew McIntyre, and he gets rammed back first in the corner and chopped. Ryback knocks Slater off the ring apron and clotheslines Mahal to knock him off too, catch him sleeping. So basically Ryback turns around, gets a big kick from McIntyre. This looked awesome, by the way. He literally kicked him with so much ferocity and velocity that he completely flipped when he landed. And of course it actually got a replay, so 3MB got some offense in. It was amazing. So basically the tag into Jinder Mahal, and he stomps away on Ryback. Tag back into Heath Slater, and they've got Ryback basically in the corner. Of course, he can't tag out, so he's pretty much screwed at this point. Or is he? Slater hits the big knee, only gets a 2 count. Drew comes back in with a big clothesline and a pin attempt, but of course a kick out at 1. Drew keeps him on the canvas, and Ryback fights out with an atomic drop. Slater tags in, he misses with the splash. Slater gets a kick to the knee, and a shoulder block. Basically, Monty Brown's pounce. He pounced him. That's basically exactly what he did. Ryback spinebuster on Slater, and one on Mahal. He picks up Mahal and Slater at the same time. Shell shock, you know how it works, whatever. So, good use of Drew McIntyre tonight. And 3-man band once again get beaten by Ryback. So, no reason to do these handicap matches. I understand it's the one-upmanship of doing Mark Henry against the Usos. So Ryback's going to have to counter, and he's going to have to face off against 3-man band, so I get that, but no. I'm tired of this. Ryback needs to lose at WrestleMania to Mark Henry decisively. He can get his WrestleMania moment of hitting Shell Shock on Mark Henry, but Mark Henry needs to kick out. And I think that would be a huge pop from the crowd if he kicked out of that, so. Because I don't think the WrestleMania crowd are going to take to Ryback very well. I mean, we're in the middle of New York and New Jersey, like half and half. So, needless to say, I don't think he's going to have a very favorable reaction at Mania. So, hopefully there'll be a lot of Mark Henry fans, like the WNS podcast. So, that's what I'm looking in for that. So, AJ is skipping to the ring, and she's going to face off against her former Chickbuster tag team partner, Caitlyn, next. Finally the match we were supposed to get many, many moons ago. So we find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be inducting Bruno Sammartino into the WWE Hall of Fame. This is the second time he has inducted Bruno into a Hall of Fame because at the Arnold Classic they inducted at the Arnold Classic they basically had Bruno get inducted by Arnold, so props to that. Can't wait to see Sammartino at the Hall of Fame. So we get a non-title match, which apparently is our main event for the evening. This is for you, Juliet. Caitlyn defends the Divas Championship against AJ Lee. Nope, sorry, it's a non-title match, so Caitlyn can lose, it doesn't matter. So Caitlyn's music changed, and I don't like it. But, speaking of music, interesting. I didn't mention this earlier, and I wanted to say something earlier, and I forgot about it, but I'm going to bring it up now because I just remembered. The Bella Twins coming out to a ripoff of Music by Madonna. Seriously, they do. Think about it. It's true. It really sounds like Music by Madonna. The song, you remember that? So, anyway, Caitlyn attacks AJ right off the bat, a whip to the corner, and the big elbow to AJ. She whips Caitlyn. Caitlyn whips her in again, but AJ hits a slap to the face, and Caitlyn responds with a clothesline that runs her over. Caitlyn hits the gutbuster and throws AJ to the outside. So Caitlyn follows up, and she's going for the spear. AJ sidesteps her, and she crashes her head into the barricade. It looked insane. So AJ mocked her, and she slid back in the ring seductively, which looked awesome, by the way, like it always does. And Caitlyn got counted out. So, up next, we get our Q&A. So, that was our Diva segment. I bet the Knockout segment on TNA is going to be better. But then again, think about it from this perspective. Three-man band were the main event on SmackDown on Friday night. And now we have AJ and Caitlyn as the main event on Raw. I know it's not the main event, but it's the main event wrestling match, so there you go. Dear God, this is long. Up next, we have the Legends Q&A. So Jerry the King Lawler gets in the ring after commercial. He makes the formal introductions for all the Hall of Famers on the Q&A panel. Booker T, Mick Foley, Dusty Rhodes, of course, replacing Ric Flair, and Bret the Hitman Hart. So basically, we get our Q&A after commercial break. So Rock and Cena are both introduced. Rock isn't getting the greatest reaction in the world either. It's not bad, but it's kind of lukewarm compared to what it could be. And Cena comes out to the mixed reaction of children like him, everyone else hate him. So that's pretty much how it works. So Foley is the first to ask his question. He brings up his match with Rocky against Evolution at WrestleMania 20 and what everybody thought was going to be his last match in the WWE. Foley felt great guilt for losing that match. And as much flack for he gets for being a Cena fan, he felt great relief that The Rock came back and defeated Cena at WrestleMania last year, taking that weight off Mick's shoulders. Mick asked Cena personally if he's ready to live with that regret should he lose to Rocky again. Before Cena can speak, the crowd is already on top of him. It's like molten heat at this point. Cena says whether he loses or wins, April 7th will change the face of the WWE forever. Cena says he's aware losing is a very real option for him this year, when last year he didn't even think it was a possibility. He talked about Donovan McNabb, whoever that is, and apparently he's like a Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. I don't know, I hate football. He never was able to win the big one. Every time his name got mentioned, it was kind of like Shaq at Terminator, at Universal. Every time you see his face, they would boo. So basically, Cena says if he loses, he will carry the legacy of Donovan McNabb. State to state, city to city, arena to arena, he will get a reaction of disdain, one voiced by the crowd each time Cena repeated his name, like I said. So Cena says statistically he will be good, but he will never be able to win the big one. This is all talking about Donovan McNabb, so it's a bunch of crap to appease the Philly audience. Don't really care. And the one thing about this I will say real quick, it was funny, they were talking about movies at this point, and earlier in the show, they brought up movies early in the point, and they talked about Lincoln, and they said Lincoln, of course, never had I don't remember the exact wording, but Lawler pretty much had a nice one-liner saying, Lincoln didn't fare very well in the theater. Yeah. Haha. Given the fact we're in Philly, you should have brought up Silver Linings Playbook, because you obviously were bringing up the Eagles, and you had CM Punk, who looks like Bradley Cooper in the movie. Obviously, that promo was not going to end with Excelsior. Anyway, so the crowd's chanting boring, and they're bored with this already. It's way too long so far with Cena's drawn-out response. Rock's going to respond, and the fans are chanting his name. So he tells a story about his rise from being a 23-year-old kid, finding a very used mattress in the back of a hotel, and being absolutely flat broke to becoming The Rock, going from Flex Kavana to Rocky Maivia to The Rock. But when he was Rocky Maivia, of course, he broke his leg, and he was told by the WWE brass to go home. When he came back, he won the WWE Championship at 25, riding high and main eventing WrestleMania, only to get his ass kicked by Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he lost the championship. He promised himself he'd come back stronger and be one of the hardest workers in the business. He says the failures he went through have made him the man he is today, and in 13 days, he's going to whip Cena's ass. Okay. Bret Hart's up next, and of course he's all about putting over Bret Hart, and the fact that you got a lot of heat is kind of like... I can't do the Donnie voice, sorry. Sorry, Donnie, I can't do your awesome Bret Hart impersonation, but you got a lot of heat, it's almost like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and I was like, no, shut up. Just get over it. So, basically, Brett says they're different now. And he asks what happened. Rock says last year was just two guys going at it for 30 minutes in the ring. Rock says Cena that took that loss like a man, and he respected that. Cena talks about how The Rock, he called out The Rock in an interview a few years ago, and he said Rock needed to prove he was faithful to the WWE Universe. Or as Rock continuously called it during this promo, the WWU Universe. I don't know why, but he said it about 3 times during this promo. I guess it's just, you talk really fast, you don't realize what you're saying. I do this a lot, actually, so I understand. So, pretty much, Cena says he respects The Rock for doing just that. He hosted WrestleMania 27, he beat Cena at WrestleMania 28, and in 13 days, we'll see how Rock handles his loss. So, Booker T's up next. He asks why Cena thinks he can beat The Rock at WrestleMania. Cena says, because I have to. That's it. Simply, he has to. So, the crowd just hates this completely. So, they boo him. So, The Rock mocks him, deservingly so, and asks what kind of a weak answer is that. Rock tells Cena to tell the real truth why he has to win. Cena says because Rock didn't beat him, Cena says he beat himself. But this is super serious, Cena, so it's not a comedy segment at this point. Cena says he has never said that publicly, but that's the fact. Cena says one bad decision, one personal moment he got caught up in. The crowd, of course, is booing him intensely. So Cena says Rock is the only person that's ever clouded his judgment enough to make a dumb decision. Cena says he watched the match over and over, he had The Rock beat, but made a stupid move by trying to use the people's elbow. Cena says this will never happen again, he will do things on his way, on his terms at WrestleMania, and Cena knows that he is better than The Rock. That's his personal reason. Rock says if he could have beat him, Cena would have beat him, but he didn't. Rock quotes Ric Flair saying, to be the man, woo! You gotta beat the man, and Cena cannot beat the man, and between them, for the rest of their lives, Cena will never be the man. So, ouch. So Dusty Rhodes asks both Rock and Cena what they really want on April 7th. Cena says he wants to win the big one and dominate The Rock. He wants The Rock to look up at the skies in MetLife Stadium, and The Rock will realize Cena belongs, and Cena is better than The Rock. He wants to hand The Rock a loss so devastating, it will haunt him for the rest of his life. Rock again, of course, mocks Cena's answer, says he isn't wired that way, and the day after WrestleMania, Rock's gonna wake up still WWE champion while Cena wakes up stuffing his face with Fruity Pebbles. Yay, product placement. Oh, by the way, I have Cocoa Pebbles now, and they're awesome. I love Cocoa Pebbles, they're amazing. And I did enter the contest. It's really funny to see the Flintstones mixed with John Cena. Animated John Cena, even funnier. Rock tells Cena to prove Rock wrong at WrestleMania, but better than that, challenge Cena to prove him wrong right now. So Rock and Cena go face to face. Cena does the you can't see me, Rock pushes him, Cena goes for the AA, Rock counters, Rock bottom, and the legends look on in amusement as Rocky stands tall and Cena looks on in disappointment. Pretty much a flashback of what we had at WrestleMania 28 as we fade to black. So it wasn't really easy to do this Raw because it's the hardest Raw to book. Obviously, next week's Raw is going to be easy, and the Go Home Raw is going to be easy. But this week, you have to answer some questions, and you really didn't. You set up AJ and Caitlyn potentially to have a match at Mania, which probably won't happen unless you go further into it. And it should happen because it makes total sense. You set up Big E, Langston, and Dolph Ziggler as legitimate contenders to a title when they haven't won anything yet. They haven't had any matches yet. Speaking of that, I have a Dolph Ziggler's music going off. And obviously, you still talk Triple H and Brock Lesnar with Lesnar on the show, and you have Cena and Rock have a segment at the end, which was boring as all get out until it got to the punchline. So, that's Raw for this week. Join me tomorrow when we will talk about other randomness, and once again, thank you for watching, and until that time tomorrow, that's all I gotta say about that.